Silver just broke over $40 an ounce and could possibly go up to 41 very soon. But the big question everyone is asking, does $50 an ounce come next? And silver has attempted it twice before, back in the 1980s and more recently in 2011, but that ceiling wasn't able to be broken. And in this video, I'm going to explain why that $50 an ounce matters and what history has told us before, plus why this time it could actually make the breakout above that level for real this time. So let's break everything all down in today's video. Want to win 100 ounces of American Silver Eagles completely free? Well, JM Bullion is giving away 5 full tubes of 100 coins packed in a custom waterproof Pelican case. There is no purchase necessary, and the giveaway ends September 11th of this year. And if you want to get in on this opportunity, click the link in the description below to enter for your chance to win. And just to be clear, JM Bullion is not sponsoring this channel in any sort of way. This is me just wanting to pass this opportunity along to help you guys out. So don't miss out on this. Click the link in the description and enter for your chance to win 100 ounces of free silver. Hi everybody, and welcome back to yet another video. So silver finally has broken above that $40 level, and I want to talk about specifically the path that it has taken to get there. And as I mentioned earlier, this isn't the first time that we've approached this level, and I want to revisit the 2 prior moments when it did, because they're going to serve as a bit of a reference point to why this time could be different. So let's start with a little bit of a history flashback as to what happened back in the 1980s when silver first went to almost $50 an ounce. So to give you a quick summary of what happened, essentially back in the late 1970s, inflation was running hot, the dollar was weak, and investors were rushing into hard assets. And on top of that, the Hunt brothers started to corner the market. They started buying massive amounts of silver, both physical and in futures or papers, and their aggressive buying ended up creating a shortage and drove the prices up like crazy. And by January of 1980, silver exploded to about $50 an ounce, and just from $6 an ounce just a few years earlier from that. But when regulators and margin changes and government intervention and everything all kind of kicked in, that bubble popped, and almost overnight silver came back crashing down, leaving a lot of traders wrecked. So essentially what you saw was inflation, dollar weakness, speculative frenzies, the Hunt brothers, the price spiked up, the government intervened, and it crashed. That's essentially what happened back in 1980s, and that was our first real experience hitting that $50 level. So fast forward to 2011, silver made a second attempt at $50, and that really occurred after the 2008 financial crisis, when the government started to print money like crazy, and inflation fears started to take over, and people were starting to lose trust in the dollar. And gold was climbing up to new highs, and silver started to look like a cheaper way to get in on the action. And as the investors poured in, especially in the electronic, the ETFs and the online paper trades and things like that, that pushed the price of silver back up to $50 an ounce back in April of 2011, essentially matching the 1980 level peaks of that $50 range. But as you could guess, by the same story that played out, regulators kicked in and set certain requirements of certain things, and it ended up cooling off, and the dollar strengthened, and silver kind of just came back down in price again. So what shot up fast back in the 1980s and in 2011 came back down just as fast as well. So what's different this time around? Right now, with silver sitting at around $41 an ounce, creeping towards the 2011 peak of nearly $50, back in the 1980s and in 2011, silver basically shot straight up with vertical spikes that were fueled by hype, cornering attempts, and margin trading, and it crashed in the opposite direction with the same amount of velocity. This time around, the move is a little bit different, or the path that it's taking to get there. Silver has slowly and steadily climbed, grinding painfully upwards over the last few years rather than weeks or months. And that slow path shows that the market is more accepting of these levels. And that old adage of gold leads and silver follows seems to finally be holding true, because gold rallied first, making all-time highs over the past few years, and silver is now following that trend. And you combine all of those things with the sky-high inflation or hyperinflation fears, extreme money printing, wars in Europe, between Russia and Ukraine, the Middle East between Israel, Hamas, Lebanon, Iran, all that stuff, the 2020 COVID pandemic, and more recently, the fact that the US labeled silver as a strategic mineral. That points to everything showing a more organic and durable push towards $50 rather than an artificial pump. And just in case you need a visual representation, here is a chart showing the spikes of the previous two runs versus what it looks like today. And you can clearly see that in both prior events, the spike upwards was very fast, while what we're doing today is more gradual and a more natural market movement. So even if we did hit $50, let's say in the next few weeks, that still wouldn't be a drastic jump from 41 to 50 like we are today versus what it was back when it was like $6 or $10 to the $50 level back in the prior two events. So even though I believe we are trending upwards, there is still a potential pullback or a bit of a rug pull that could happen. Silver is volatile and $50 is a tough barrier to break. If you remember the previous two events that had occurred when it crashed, there were interventions with the government and or some sort of requirement change that caused the price to eventually be pulled back. So I do think it's possible as well that if there's enough hype that kicks in, they could make up some new requirement or some new rule that would force investors or speculators to be cashed out and bring the prices back down again. That risk definitely exists. And I wouldn't be surprised if something like that were to happen again, personally. But for now, we can only speculate where it will go, and we just need to sit back and watch and see what happens as we get closer to that $50 if it continues to go in that direction. And now, if we do close above that $50 level and we actually stay there for quite a bit of time, that will obviously be the first time in history we do so if you don't adjust for inflation and everything. And we'll be in uncharted territory, and from there, who knows? But that psychological barrier will be broken, and we just don't know what's going to happen until then. But again, just as a reminder, I don't know or want to predict with any amount of extreme confidence where things will go. But I am optimistic in its current trajectory. Now, I may be wrong, and that's okay. But for now, as far as we know, this could spark a mainstream FOMO event or hit new all-time highs and be the beginning of a greater bull run, or it can just do the complete opposite. But again, this isn't the end of silver by any means. This is just a new and exciting chapter that we all get to experience today. With that being said, do you think silver can finally break through that $50 level, or is this just going to be another fake out? Let me know in the comments what you think. I really want to hear where you stand on this, and if you think silver deserves the spotlight, hit that like button so more people can see this message or this video. Otherwise, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.